Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make a banana cake with a chocolate frosting. So first, preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, that's 180 degrees Celsius, and then you'll need a 9-inch cake pan that's 23 centimeters, and you can either butter and flour the pan, or you could just spray it with one of those vegetable flour sprays. And then I like to line the pan with a piece of parchment paper, or you could use wax paper. The first thing we're going to do with this banana cake is mix the wet ingredients together. I'm going to do it in a food processor. If you don't have a food processor, you just do this by hand. So you need 2 large bananas and have them ripe. And then just put those in. And then I'm going to add 1/3 cup, that's 80 milliliters of sour cream, and have that at room temperature. And 1½ teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. And then we're just going to process this until everything's blended and the bananas are smooth. Okay, looks good. Now to that, just add 2 large eggs and have those at room temperature as well. And just process that until everything's blended together. Okay, and that's it for our wet ingredients. I'm just going to move this out of the way. Now for the dry ingredients. If you have an electric stand mixer like this, you can use a paddle attachment, or you could use an electric hand mixer. So what we're going to do is put all the ingredients in the bowl. So 2 cups, 230 grams of cake flour, 1 cup, that's 200 grams of granulated white sugar, and then 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and just 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Now, I like a little cinnamon with bananas. If you don't like that, then you could just leave that out. And then I'm just going to beat this just until the ingredients are combined, maybe 30 seconds. Now to that, I'm going to add 10 tablespoons, that's 140 grams of butter. I like to use the unsalted butter, but if you like salted, use that. But if you use salted, I would leave out that 1/2 teaspoon of the salt that we added before. Now you want to make sure that this butter is quite soft, and I like to cut it in small pieces. Just when you press it, it's really quite soft. And that's so it will blend into the flour, because if it was too hard, then you just get little pieces. And we want it to blend really nice and smooth into the dry ingredients. And then to that, we're going to add just 1/2 of the banana mixture. Just kind of eyeball that. And just beat this on low to medium low until all the dry ingredients are moistened. Okay, everything's moistened. Now the important part. We want to develop, this is a little different method of making a cake batter, not like the creaming method. So what we need to do is develop the structure of the cake. And so we're going to beat this batter for 1.5 minutes at medium speed. Now if you're using a hand mixer, you might want to beat that at high speed, but if you have this big mixer at medium speed, but 1.5 minutes, and that will develop the structure of our cake. Now you need to make sure that this was beat for 1.5 minutes. Now I have used a kitchen timer because if you don't beat it long enough, the cake, the structure won't be developed enough and then the cake will collapse. So just make sure you set your timer when you're doing this. So the next thing we're going to do is, in 2 additions, we're going to add the rest of the banana mixture. And then just beat it like 20-30 seconds, just until it's incorporated. Scrape down your sides. I know this method of making a cake is a little different than most, but it really gives a nice, smooth, velvety texture to the cake, almost melt in your mouth. So just add the rest of the banana mixture. And I'm just going to beat that for another 20-30 seconds until it's incorporated. Okay, and we're done. So let's pour it into your prepared pan. Then just smooth the top either with an offset spatula or you can just use the back of a spoon. Spread it out evenly. Okay, into the oven for about 35 to 40 minutes or until a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean. So our banana cake is now done. A toothpick inserted in the center will come out clean and it's just starting to pull away from the sides. So just let it cool like this for about 10 minutes and then we'll take it out of the pan. So to remove the cake from the pan, take a knife or an offset spatula and just run it all the way around to make sure it doesn't stick to the pan. And then take a cooling rack and then we're just going to flip it. As you can see, it releases really easily because we did have that parchment paper on the bottom of the pan. And then I'm just going to peel off paper gently. And then I'm going to flip it back so it's right side up. Now, what we're going to do now is let this cool completely and then we'll make the chocolate frosting. So now we'll make the chocolate frosting. The first thing you need to do is take 3 ounces of unsweetened chocolate. That is plain, or maybe you know it as bitter chocolate, and that's chocolate with no sugar added. And you can either melt it in the microwave or in a heat-proof bowl over a saucepan of simmering water. And then just let that cool to room temperature. And then if you have a stand mixer like this, use a paddle attachment, or you could just use an electric hand mixer. So in the mixer bowl, put 1/2 cup, that's 113 grams of butter, that's at room temperature. And I'm just going to beat that until it's nice and creamy and smooth. Okay. Scrape down the sides. And then add 1 cup, it's about 120 grams of confectioner sugar, or maybe you know it as powdered or icing, and sift the sugar to get rid of all the lumps. And then I'm just going to beat this until it's light and fluffy, a couple minutes. Scrape down the sides. Next, we're going to beat in 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, just until it's blended in. And the last thing is the chocolate. Now make sure your chocolate is at room temperature. You don't want it too warm because then it would end up melting the butter and sugar, which is not what we want. Now if that does happen, after you beat it, you could just put it in the refrigerator for a bit to firm it up. If you find it's got too soft. It's best just to stick your finger in there and check the temperature before adding it. Okay, so I'm just going to beat this in on low speed, and then I'm going to increase the speed to medium-high and just beat it until it's thick enough that you can spread the frosting easily. Okay. So at this point, if you found it like it was too soft, you could always add a little more confectioner sugar. If it was not soft enough, you could add a little cream to thin it out. So just put your cake that's nice and cool and put on a serving platter. I've got a cake pedestal here, but just a plate, it's good. And just and you can use a knife, or I got this offset spatula. Now you could just spread it over the top of the cake, or you can cover the whole sides, go down if you want. So you can see this spreads really nice. This is what you're looking for. Just kind of around and smooth the sides, the frosting. Chocolate and banana always goes very well together. There's also another recipe on the site for a chocolate banana cake that you might want to try. It's got that same kind of combination. So And you can just kind of swirl it how you want on the top. Now you can just leave it like this, or I often like to decorate the top. You could use some nuts, or I get these dried banana chips. You can buy them health food stores, or some grocery stores have them. And okay, we'll cut a slice. As big or as small as you please. So there you have it. Banana cake with chocolate frosting. Now this will keep several days, either stored at room temperature, or you could put it in the fridge for a little longer. So until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.